meeting at the intersection of AI and real estate with today's special guest, Gladys Margarita Diaz, on today's episode. Today's episode is brought to you by the bestseller ChatGPT Profits. This book is the missing instruction manual to get you up and running with ChatGPT in a matter of minutes. As a special gift, you can get it absolutely free at artificialintelligencepod.com/gift or at the link right below this episode. Make sure to grab your copy before it goes back up to full price. Are you tired of dealing with your boss? Do you feel underpaid and underappreciated? If you want to make it online, fire your boss, and start living your retirement dreams now, then you've come to the right place. Welcome to the Artificial Intelligence Podcast Show, where you will learn how to use artificial intelligence to open new revenue streams and make money while you sleep. Presented live from a tropical island in the South Pacific by best-selling author Jonathan Green. Now, here's your host. I actually get asked this question almost more than any other question people ask me about, which is how can I use AI to help me in real estate? So it's why I wanted to reach out to you and have you on the show as quickly as possible because I'm constantly asked this question and I wanted to bring in an actual expert. So I'd love to hear just how you began mixing these two worlds and where you see the future is, because a lot of people are trying to guess and plan their chess moves now.
I'm an architect by profession, and I have a master's degree in urban planning and design. So I come to real estate with a completely different point than the standard real estate agent or real broker. And my idea was, how can I adapt what's available to me to what I see is needed by the customer? And so, as far as I'm concerned, this is a great time to be in real estate. There is nothing like being in a crisis to really divide the people, the survivors from the not survivors. And I think that AI is, we're so lucky that we have that because it helps us to streamline our delivery and to be able to service our customers better. And so, several years ago, what I wanted to do was to establish a way to search for properties visually. And I hired an app creator and all that other stuff. We're developing a new technology that is native AI to be able to search and focus on the consumer as opposed to the property. Because if you look at the current search situation, you are actually bombarded with data, and you, the customer, have to evaluate that data. So the best thing to do is to sift through that data. And so what we're focusing on is we're creating a decision engine. And I think that's what AI gives us the opportunity. And right now, everyone is asking, oh my God, what do I do? And how do I deal with this? The future is going to be very different, but technology is going to help you. What will happen is that people who are not professionals are going to fall by the wayside, and people who are professionals in the field are going to study. I love your podcast because it's giving data about how to use this, how to use that. Right now, it's primarily ChatGPT, but sundry other applications used. And so that's where we're at. And I think that the picture is, it's not easy. We're going to go through a rough patch, and we're going to come out the other side in a much better state. And I'm going to give you a parallel. Do you remember the 2008 housing crisis? You were there,
Sure.
right? Okay, good.
Oh, yeah.
So imagine that you're a mortgage broker for 20 years or 10, whatever, however long, and all of a sudden you've got an email that says your license is no longer valid. You have to basically take your exam all over again and do your training again. And that's what happened to me. And so we basically had to start from scratch. There were 300,000 licensed mortgage brokers in the state of Florida at that time. This is 2009, 2010. It got down to 10,000. And so what happened was that the people that were left behind or that were remained in the business changed the way they did things and adapted. So it's adapt or die, survival of the fittest. And I think that's really what's going to happen. And it's possible if you just have a commitment and a dedication to this profession. You're either going to do it or does that make sense?
Yeah. So let's talk about that. The way most residential real estate now is listed is all through the MLS, right? Which is in set in stone, at least as far as I know. Obviously, I'm not in the real estate niche, but my understanding is that it's had the same options and the same boxes you fill in for a very long time.
Yes,
So
correct.
nothing has really changed with how we describe real estate, and it's still things like 1.5 bathrooms, or this house has 2 half bathrooms, which don't equal a whole bathroom, and the language hasn't changed, but a lot of the ways people build has changed, a lot of the way what people are looking for has changed. So 2 properties can have the same list on a spreadsheet, but look completely different when you get there in person. For example, I know that sometimes when people move for the first time to a new market, like people go to Arizona for the first time, they go, "Wow, this is a two-story house. Why is it such a great deal?" Because they don't realize air conditioning a two-story house is way harder than air conditioning a one-story house, and it's a huge difference in cost. Unless you're from the market, you don't know that. Most people approach, especially real estate investors and real estate brokers, from the spreadsheet mindset, which is here's the data points, and everyone has their algorithm of these are the factors I'm looking for, these are the questions I'm looking for. But you're talking about really trying to come from the perspective of the consumer. Most people, when they buy a home they're going to live in, they don't really look at the statistics. They always go, "Oh, this is the house. I just have a feeling about this house. I fell in love with that house. I like the look of that house." And then they justify the other parts, the wants and the don't want, and the needs and the parts that they don't have, right? It comes from that almost instinctual level. So, how much time do you think is lost or wasted in the process when you start from data and and you're trying to bring that to someone who's not purchasing from data, when you're just trying to merge those two things? How much of your time, or how much do you think of the average person looking for a home is wasted because of the miscommunication between how they're shopping and how houses are sold?
I think it's totally on the shoulders of the data provider. I think that unfortunately the universe is controlled by Excel and people who read Excel. And for thus far, the technology for servicing the real estate business has been quantitative, what you say. 3 bedroom, 2 bath, 400 square feet, 5,000 feet, whatever it is, right? And no one has taken into account what you said, which is the qualitative part, the emotion of how do I feel in this space? What kind of a neighborhood do I really want? Which, by the way, is the first decision that a buyer on the buyer journey. The first decision you have to make is where, the location of where you want to be. And then if you're moving, like we've had a lot of people moving to Florida for the last several years, right? People ask, like, where can I live? I want to be in a pedestrian oriented community. I want to be this. Yeah, that's an oxymoron in the Sun Belt, but we're a car driven, development focused state. But at the end of the day, you do have a movement towards walkable cities, toward concentration, and so on. So the app that we're developing, we're starting with the module that has to do with neighborhood selection. And I'm going to tell you now, this is where, when I opened up about my background, this is where we come to it from a completely different viewpoint. I want to find the soul of a neighborhood, the vibe of a neighborhood. Because I've done community planning for years, and I've stood in front of 150 people at a community planning workshop saying, how do you see yourself? And what do you define as this neighborhood? And what do you want to see in your neighborhood? There's a lot of statistical data available that it has not been parsed into a usable format that we are working on right now. And thanks to AI, we're able to take that data and convert it into something usable. And I think that is the trend. That is what we are going to see. People are going to be looking at every consumer decision is emotional. At the end of the day, you're not buying a car has 4 wheels and a motor and 4 doors and whatever. But what you're buying is feeling that car. Why do people buy Porsche? Why do people buy Ferrari? Because they want to feel a certain way about, it's a product that you're trying to achieve. So I think that is going to happen. And you're absolutely 1000% correct. The decision making process is a process of education. People want to learn about a neighborhood. People want to learn about their style. Think about it. you live in Asia. There's a certain regional style to construction there. And I don't know if you're in a place that was colonized by the Spanish Empire. Is that correct?
Yeah, but this house was built by Australians.
Okay. So it's a modern house, right?
Yeah.
And it has to
So,
withstand 200-mile-an-hour winds.
yeah, so that's a great point. So when we buy a house, we mostly look at elevation. So the first thing
Yeah,
my family looks at is we don't want to be because we know people who are below sea level on this island, and we always look at their houses. These people are crazy. There's we live in an area where there's a lot of natural disasters. They're frequent. Even this island had one just 2 years or 4 years ago, a major one. So to be at a place where there's floodings or tsunamis or major typhoons, and to be there's a place you can live where you're directly across from the beach, but you're below the road on the other side, so you're actually underwater. I would never live there. That blows my mind. I won't even be at sea level. So we're up a hill. We're always up a hill. This is our third house on this island. It's the lowest elevation house, but it's still we're up a hill, not down a hill, right? We're in the middle of the hill this time. Normally we're at the top. This house just happened to be the one. And that's a huge part of our decision-making calculus when most people don't think about that. Most people don't think about those
natural
things,
hazard.
but we look at that because we've been through one. So we go, how do you handle certain situations? What will happen if the road floods? Will this house? So my parents' house when I was younger was downhill of the neighbor's house by an inch, not a huge amount, but that meant when it flooded, it would all go into all pool in our backyard. So these things that you often don't think about until it happens to you. And then we had to dig a culvert under the house so it would go to the road. And it was something you wouldn't even see with your eyes because it was such a small amount. But water will always find a way. And that's just some of my experiences. But most people think of AI and they think of it as, oh, this is a tool that's really good at spreadsheets. It's really good at data analysis. And I think a lot of people, that's what most people ask me about is really, oh, can this, and yes, ChatGPT can do spreadsheets. But the problem is, and this is very interesting, that sometimes I think that people are always looking for a nail if they have a hammer and they see ChatGPT as the solution, but maybe the problem is not. And this is an interesting way of looking at it because I know because I've talked to other real estate brokers, the most important thing to them is the speed at which they go from meeting the client to closing the deal. Because if you can go from 7 days per client to 4 days per client, that almost doubles how much money you can make. So it makes a huge difference the amount of time you spend on indecision. And I know that the people I talk to who are the real estate agents who are the most aggressive are always, don't waste my time. Tell me what kind of house you want. Tell me what neighborhood you want. Don't play games with me. Tell me your deal breakers. And a lot of people have really impossible deal breakers that they simply don't exist or they're illegal. There's certain things that like you can't pass from one owner to the next. And people go, that's what I want. They go, yeah, but that's impossible because that's against the law to pass it. Certain things you can't give to the next owner because of the way, like a zoning things, you have to reapply for it whenever there's a new owner. And or when you do a construction on a house, whenever you do a change, there's different rules here. We deal with all sorts of stuff. Whenever you want to fix something, you have to get permission to fix it. And there's always someone's hand needs to be greased a little bit. So I think this is an interesting idea because most people think of AI as removing the humanity from the process. They say it's just going to take away the entire human part of the equation, which is the opposite of your approach. And most people's biggest fear when they come to me and they talk about fear is, oh, I don't want to use AI because it will take away the human element. And it's very interesting to think that actually you can use it to convert images into a form of data because this is an area where, and I think you can see this more on Airbnb. Some people know how to take pictures of their house and some don't. So we sometimes will look at an Airbnb and I'll go, they haven't taken a picture of a single bathroom or they haven't taken, or all the pictures are from outside the building, which is the biggest red flag to me. It's like, here's the lobby, here's the pools. Why are there no pictures of the apartment? You're hiding something.
Where am I going to
And
sleep? Yeah.
so I wonder how often people do like those. I don't know if people really do. I've never done like a 360 tour. I have to go in person to look at something. I can't make a decision from online. I just can't from pictures. I have to see it. I have to get a feel. I like to look at the floor plan, which often you can't get. That's how I look at things, but at the same time, I don't know how many bedrooms this house has. I'm really not sure. I don't know how many bathrooms we have. I'd have to think about it. The bathrooms I can count because bedrooms is we can use it as a bedroom or we could not use it as a bedroom, right? If I'm using a room as my office, does that mean that we have a home office or is it still a bedroom when we're counting? And people count differently, right? Because if you don't want a home office, then you go, oh, that's an extra bedroom or that's a nursery. And I'm thinking how people can look at the exact same house and see two different spreadsheets that have really different information. And there's a really different perspective. Oh, that's a guest bedroom. No, that's the nursery. That's a different way, or that's the home office. And most of that does come from seeing the images. I know they've tried a lot of things to solve this problem in other ways, which is staging houses, doing open houses, taking pictures, and try to do now there's 360 tours. Do you find that those technologies have actually made a difference where people can do like virtual tours? Has that made any difference in your experience?
It's helped. And I think primarily because we work with people outside of Miami. They want to get a feel, a sense of what space is like. I'm going to give you an example. I had a client from New York who was very concerned about COVID. This was during COVID. And she wanted to rent a high rise in a high rise. She wanted to get the information about the view, all this stuff. So, number one, I needed to give her floor plans that were accurate because she had X amount of furniture that she had to put into the unit. So I gave her accurate floor plans that were available from the developer. I went to the property and I took videos as to I'm standing in the living room, this is the view. So you as a real estate agent have the possibility of being the curator for that experience. Like this is what it's going to be like with the kitchen. This is what it's going to be like. So thanks to FaceTime and all that other good stuff that we have available to us, we have a lot of. So she rented the place sight unseen, but I gave her a thorough understanding of the arrival sequence, the entry sequence, choices that she had, elevator A or elevator B, and what the spaces felt like. I think that a lot of times is something that I've learned. People do not understand scale. In other words, a 10 by 12 room, how big is that? What's the size of a king size bed? What's the size of a queen size bed? How many pieces of furniture can you put in this room? And what does the space feel like in terms of is it compressed? And does it have low ceilings? Does it have high ceilings? Those are things that people are very interested in knowing about. But yes, we find those tools extremely useful. The ability, I think that what you're talking about at the speed of particle flow, right? The faster you move the particle, the more money you make. That's true. But if the particle, which is basically the customer, if the customer does not have knowledge about what is possible, you just mentioned a few points. They ask for things that are like, what are you kidding me? This is not going to happen because of zoning code or whatever the issue is. They have to be educated prior to sitting in front of you. And the more you train people about this is what a neighborhood is, this is what you can and can't do. I live in a city that has extremely strict zoning and code enforcement. So there's no way that you're going to paint your house without getting a. They take it a little far, but the point is that it community has maintained its value through thick and thin. And I think that issue of using the tools of technology, using AI to assist you to basically, when the client arrives at your door, they know what they're going to be looking at. They know what they're looking for because often they don't know what they like. They say, "Oh, I think I want." I get a phone call. I want an old Spanish style house. And do you know what that means? Lots of maintenance. Like that's the reality. You buy a 94-year-old house, you buy a 100-year-old house. Right now we're in 2024. The city that I'm in was founded in the 20s. Most of these older homes are from 1924, 25, 26. So if you're going to buy a 100-year-old property, you know that there's going to be challenges that you're going to have to confront. The good news is they're built very strong because they've endured all the hurricanes, South Florida during all those years. So those are the kind of things that I talk to clients about because I'm aware of them because that's my training. I look at a property and I see what is it built like? What are a property, just so you know, a house is a machine for living in. That's a quote Le Corbusier from the 20s of the 20th century, an early 20th century architect. Why do you think that is? Because it's a series of systems. You have the roof and the skin of the building, that's the exterior. Then you have mechanical, electrical, and plumbing. Those are four horses of the apocalypse. One of those collapses, you got lots of money coming out of your pocket. Think about it.
Oh, I do. We deal with stuff all the time here with maintenance issues, and that's the thing is that there's always the factor of time and cost for everything where we live because anywhere hot means it's salty, and salt in the air means everything degrades faster, corrodes faster. So this is very interesting to me because I know a lot of people are trying to figure out how AI can help other areas. And there's a really common question. So I'm glad we chatted about this. And I think this is going to help people who are thinking about why they're struggling with buying their next home and this issue of, oh, I've been looking at it the wrong way. Why am I looking at stats when I'm not, that's not how I shop. I'm always amazed by people that shop via video camera. I couldn't even imagine that, but I know it happens here. I always see the people with the video camera and they're very careful not to show any of the downsides of the house because and I'm like, wow, that's exactly why I got to be there in person. I don't trust anyone else's eyes but my own. But
But
where
that's
can
the
people?
responsibility of a real estate professional. If
Yeah,
I'm
well,
if
here,
I'm showing a house, I'm gonna say, listen, this is the reality. This roof is over 20 years old, and you're gonna have to replace. Right now, it's not leaking. It's gonna happen, and you have to have a certain amount of prediction. So you have to share
yeah,
that information. So I stopped you. I'm sorry that you
no, that's fine. It's just where I live here, there's no rule of law, which means you can get away with anything, and that's why you really have to check it on your own. And it's why we've been through so many unbelievable stories, and that's why we're very cautious here. But finally, and this has been great. What's the best place for people to find you online, to find out what you're doing, to see how you're approaching this intersection of AI and real estate if they want to learn more about this concept and these ideas?
the first thing is my why you could email me. I'm on LinkedIn. LinkedIn Gladys Margarita Diaz. Jordan is my married name. That so I prefer LinkedIn because I see message me there. You can call the office, area code 305-648-2484. That's the number. And I want to share with you that the company that we're launching, we're going to be probably ready in about 2 to 3 months. And it's going to be available for people to really change the way that they do business. And this is going to be something that I want to share with you, Jonathan, because you are in touch with a lot of people that want answers. And I think that they would really enjoy that. You're going to have an AI intelligent conversation, personalized data, concept, comprehensive information. And I'm putting that data together. And like I said, I come at this from a design viewpoint, materials, methods of construction, all those things that you're talking about. That's something that nobody else is looking at.
Yeah, there's a big difference between a brick house and a wood house. That's what the Three Little Pigs taught me. So thank you so much for being here. This has been a great episode of the Artificial Intelligence Podcast, and I really appreciate you sharing your time with us.
Thank you, Jonathan, for inviting me. Bye.
Thanks for listening to today's episode. Starting with AI can be scary. ChatGPT Profits is not only a bestseller, but also the missing instruction manual to make mastering ChatGPT a breeze. Bypass the hard stuff and get straight to success with ChatGPT Profits. As always, I would love for you to support the show by paying full price on Amazon. We can get it absolutely free for a limited time at artificialintelligencepod.com/gift. Thank you for listening to this week's episode of the Artificial Intelligence Podcast. Make sure to subscribe so you never miss another episode. We'll be back next Monday with more tips and tactics on how to leverage AI to escape that rat race. Head over to artificialintelligencepod.com now to see past episodes, leave a review, and check out all of our socials.